Well, Victoria has just recorded its lowest ever road toll with 214 deaths last year, down from 259 in 2017. In contrast, road users in the Northern Territory are dying at 4 times the rate than those across the rest of the country.
Mobile phones are one of the major distractions for drivers, often with deadly consequences.
I do Snapchat and drive sometimes.
Is that like making Snapchats or watching them?
Making them.
A, texting is like my main form of communication.
Boredom, honestly.
And B, well, no, I guess no, it's really just A.
I've only never done it at stoplights. I've always been really good about it.
The passenger has a pretty important role driving now, where they're like, oh, red light, red light.
If someone that you like texts you, you can't just let it sit there without just knowing what they said.
Because what if something exciting's happening or something happened?
Like every time I do it, I think about it, I'm like, why am I doing this? And then I just keep doing it.
Yes, seen as one of the, well, I guess the next frontier of road safety. We've heard that South Australia has been very good at reducing its deaths and road toll as well. But what more can we do to reduce those deaths on our roads?
Well, Peter Bragge is a researcher in behaviour change at Monash University. He's written a book on the lessons to be learned from Victoria's approach to road safety, and he joins us in the studio. Thanks very much, Peter, for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
It is pretty amazing. Victoria's doing something right with the road toll, but when you look at the use of mobile phones, that's got to be the alarming development, isn't it?
Well, the road toll story in Victoria over time is actually a very good one. We started way back in 1970 with a road toll, would you believe, of over 1,000 in a population much smaller than what we have now.
Shocking front page on the book cover that we saw.
Yeah, and it took a groundbreaking campaign by Harry Gordon at the then Sun News Pictorial to raise awareness of the issue of seatbelts. And seatbelts, Victoria was the first jurisdiction in the world to make seatbelts legal, to enforce the wearing of seatbelts.
Now tell us about the argument against seatbelts that was...
well, it's interesting. So the Premier of the day, Henry Bolte, was actually opposed to making seatbelts mandatory, and on civil libertarian grounds. And there are a lot of people who would say things like, oh, you know, if I wear a seatbelt, it's going to crush my dress, it's going to crush my suit. I have the right to wear a seatbelt and I drive carefully. And it's really interesting to think about how those same arguments are coming through in the mobile phone debate.
OK, so what happens? Because they are addictive. So how do you stop people wanting to grab a text message? Well, and how dangerous is that?
Well, first you have to acknowledge how addictive they are. So when we unpack the behaviour of using mobile phones, the manufacturers cleverly have made them very addictive. You've got likes, you've got pings, you've got noises. And every time you receive feedback from a mobile phone, you get a little surge of the feel-good hormone, dopamine, in your brain. And what that means is that they do become addictive. And research has shown, including research from Monash University, that 60% of people admit to reading text messages while they're driving. And alarmingly, mobile phone use and distractions in cars are associated with up to 1/3 of road deaths.
So in the US, they encourage people to lock them in the glove box. They say, get into the car, put it in the glove box, put it away.
There's a number of great strategies, but when we're talking about breaking habits, I think you need to use quite a few strategies. So one is to raise awareness, and that campaign was an example of an awareness-raising campaign to make people aware that it's actually life-threatening to other people and yourself to be using a mobile phone in the car. You can make a pledge to not use your mobile phone. So obviously with the new year, lots of New Year's resolutions. You can make a pledge, I'm not going to use my mobile phone, but then you have to think about changing the environment to make it difficult. So in the glove box is an extreme example. There may be technologies in the future that make it difficult or impossible to use your mobile phone in a moving car. There are so-called nudge strategies which could flash warnings to make you aware of what you're doing, because once something's become a habit, it's automatic and you're sometimes not aware you're doing it. And some people actually admit to using their mobile phones even though they know it's dangerous. So that really shows how much of a habit it is.
I reckon it's got to be cold, hard cash, don't you think, Paul? You've got to be fined. You've got to face something.
Well,
they are, but
laws exist.
But it's harder to detect maybe than speeding.
Yeah, it is. And look, laws exist. And if you go back to the seatbelt example, we can use a similar formula. First, you have to raise awareness. This is a really big problem in society and we have to do something about it. Secondly, you make laws and you enforce those laws. So There's been some clever strategies around the corner from me. I think some police went undercover as window washers and caught quite a lot of people on mobile phones. And then obviously it comes down to yourself and your self-control, and other people in the vehicle can reinforce that as well. Put your phone in your pocket, use voice commands. Maybe start the new year by moving your mobile phone holder, taking it off the windscreen, make it more difficult.
Can I just ask a couple of questions on data? How is it that in some states the death toll, the road toll, is going down while the use of mobile phones is going up?
That's an interesting question. I don't have an answer for that. I
suspect that we're getting better every year at things like reducing speed and alcohol.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe.
So the roads are getting safer. Technology is helping a lot. Lane departure warnings and autonomous braking, and actually. That can make people think that using a mobile phone is safe. They think their car's going to drive itself, but we're not really at that point yet. Yeah. So we've got a long way to go, but it can start with a personal pledge in New Year's to not touch your phone while you're driving.
Peter Bragge, another New Year's resolution for me. Thank you so much for coming in. I really appreciate it.
Absolute pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Peter. What do you mean New Year's resolution? So you're saying that you use your phone in your car?
I try not to, but it is tempting. And can I actually admit that I might have broken the law on national television?
Well,
I probably should not have done that.
No, a high percentage of people do it.
But rewind the last minute of television.
Maybe this is the year that we can all stop doing that.